Well, hello there, and welcome to Guild Wars 2 Daily. For today, we're going to be talking about lore, and the footage in the background is from someone called Jonas93, who, as far as I can see on their channel, has only got one really good video that's actually very, very long. It's 33 minutes long in total, and I've got permission to use it. So what we'll be doing over the next few episodes is just slowly working our way through that bit of footage. Thanks very much to you there, Jonas, and anyone can find a link in the description down below if you can't wait and want to see it all for yourself straight away. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about lore. And I've got two questions here. Two questions I quite liked, actually. They were both really well thought out, and they're quite interesting topics. So the first one is something I get asked quite a lot. And most of the time when I get asked it, people do go into quite a lot of detail. Now, this person is just one in a long line of people, and I just picked the latest one that's been asked. And this is really, for my opinion, on a theory a lot of people try to craft for themselves about the lore. So this was asked by Galacane or Galasane, I'm not sure how you'd want to say that, but it reads, this is a question about the human pantheon and the elder dragons. A pretty wild theory hit me recently, and I'm wondering if you can tell me if it's stupid or if there's some merit to it. I realise there is a really, really odd similarity between 5 of the human pantheon and the elder dragons. Balthazar, war and fire. Avatar looks to be made of lava and metal. Primordus is fire, and destroyer minions look like soldiers made of fire and metal. Then there's Grenth, the necromancer god, and Zaitan, the necromancer elder dragon. Then there's Lissa, beauty and water, the deep sea dragon, water and tentacles. Corrupted beauty, I guess. Then there's Melandru, nature and earth. Kralkatorrik, earth and corrupted nature through crystallization. Dwayne and Jormag is kind of a stretch, but I can still see a bit of a connection through wind and freezing. So is it bunk that there may be some kind of connection between the two? Would it be possible that this is sort of some yin-yang cycle deal, like, pardon the World of Warcraft reference, the Naru in WoW? I almost wonder if there is a 6th hidden dragon that is the madness truth behind it all. So many people come to me with this question. So many people put these things together. I've mentioned it briefly in other videos outside of Guild Wars 2 Daily, but I personally, I'm not a believer in this theory. Not even slightly, really. And here's why, okay? You can see a couple of similarities through certain of the Pantheon and the Elder Dragons, but it always falls apart at some place. It certainly doesn't look like ArenaNet were trying to match these things up quite clearly to one another. There are too many small little areas where you can dispute exactly where someone pairs things together. For example, and I'll go over a few of these because, as I say, a lot of people come to this, and it's a cool idea, I guess, to assume that there might be some kind of connection there, but I almost feel like that would be a bit too easy for the story, and ArenaNet don't seem to have gone with that decision. I mean, for example, let's look at your pairings here. First, you say Balthazar and Primordus. Now, that does seem to make quite a lot of sense. You're right in that there is a bit of a fire theme going on there. Primordus definitely is the most fiery of all the dragons, if you will, and that is a big aspect of Balthazar. However, at the same time, you'll find other people that argue Primordus is far more suited to Melandru, because Primordus is to do with the earth and rock and being underground, and lava is, of course, just molten rock, right? So who's to say that Melandru isn't the better fit there? So you've got earth with earth, and earth is really kind of his element. I mean, fire is necessarily, when we define Primordus, what people will think of. I think he is actually referred to in some places in-game as the Elder Dragon or fire, which could tie him to Balthazar, but I want to establish quite quickly one thing about the gods. Now, we've known that the gods can seem to take ownership, if you will, of certain branches of magic, such as fire and water and ice and different areas like this. They do seem to have some kind of ownership, but that ownership can be transferred between the gods, okay? It's not like you have one god and they're stuck with one element in some way. I mean, for example, you've later paired Lissa as beauty and water with the deep sea dragon, because this is an elder dragon we know to be underwater, but in all other ways, we know nothing about it, right? Well, Lissa has only become the god of water very recently. For a long time, that was owned by Abaddon, and it seems like for a short period of time, Cormyr may have even owned water as well. So when we're looking and trying to pair pair these things up, immediately I feel like all these theories lose a lot of weight straight away, because you can't say that a certain god is paired with a certain dragon when that god and the element that it's affiliated with can be so easily changed, and has changed, and probably will change again in the future. While the Elder Dragons, we have no example of this. It goes a little bit into the question of where magic came from. Are the gods just channeling magic from the Elder Dragons, or do the gods have their own magic separate to the Elder Dragons? The Elder Dragons themselves certainly seem to have magic separate to the gods and what the gods have been given people. So what's the relationship there? But immediately, where we're going through this list now, and for example, the next one you say is Grenth, the Necromancer god, compared to Zhaitan, the Necromancer Elder Dragon, it falls flat. I mean, Grenth was the god of death, but really he's only known by this title because he's the judge of where people go in the afterlife. When people die, or at least with humans, their spirits go to the mists, and the first place they will go to is the underworld, where Grenth will essentially, and Grenth's minions will shepherd them off into their respective places. So that's kind of why he's known as the god of death. He's just as much known as the god of ice. Now, does Zhaitan really have anything to do with ice? Well, no, we've not seen any example that he's got anything to do with ice whatsoever. Grenth is known as a judge more than most things. Is Zhaitan really known as a judge? Well, no. I mean, we've talked quite a lot recently about how the Elder Dragons think and how they work, and I would find it hard to believe that the Elder Dragons are judging anything. They're just hungry. So does that really stay together? I mean, there are general themes that fit. Let's go on. So you've got Lissa with beauty and water. Actually, these guys get paired up quite often, and they're probably my favourite pairing, really, only because Lissa is kind of presented as this jewel creature, this very mysterious thing that we can't quite work out, and her descriptions of her never 100% fit, and she's all about illusions, and that's a very core part of what it is to be Lissa. And on the same time, we've got this hidden Elder Dragon, the mysterious one that not even the races of Tyria seem to really know much about at the moment. I mean, in Divinity's Reach, there's a book you can read that talks about the Elder Dragons. It only lists 4 of them. As far as these people are concerned, the Deep Sea Dragon, it just doesn't exist, and it may as well not be there. That's how mysterious and weird this last dragon is. And that kind of fits with Lissa in some ways, but connecting the water together, as I say, because of the elements, I just don't feel like it works so well. And particularly beauty and a lot of the other things that Lissa stands for. How can we say that they fit closer with the water dragon than with, say, Kralkatorrik, who fits with many of her other themes? I mean, if we're doing this by colour, which some people have, then Lissa fits perfectly with Kralkatorrik, with the crystallization and Lissa's auras. So that fits in a lot of ways. And then, of course, you've got lower down here Melandru, Nature and Earth, which, you know, as we said, could go closer to Primordus, and you're pairing it with Kralkatorrik, who's to do with Earth and corrupted nature through crystallization. Well, all these Elder Dragons are corrupting things in some way. Primordus is corrupting rock to create his destroyers, and he's burning forests, and he's destroying things in that way. That's still a form of corruption in some way. It's killing the land. And since when was Melandru really about corruption in the first place? I don't see the link between Melandru and Kralkatorrik, not for a long way. And then even you say it for yourself, Dwayna and Jormag, pairing those two together, you can kind of see a connection through wind and freezing. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't. As soon as you go a little bit deeper, it's a nice idea that you can see these loose themes between each, you know, the 5 dragons and then the 6 gods. And you can kind of see how maybe they tie in every now and then. But it definitely doesn't look like, if ArenaNet wanted to go that direction with the storyline, they didn't do themselves any favours at all. There doesn't seem to be very much to go on here. I actually think, and I would agree with them if they thought this as well, that the story would be a lot more compelling if we didn't just start pairing everything up like that, and we actually had a more compelling story about the difference between these Elder Dragons, with their own rich backstory that's completely separate to the gods, who themselves have got their own rich backstory that is completely separate to the Elder Dragons. And we can have these big, deep lore scenarios here with some very decent backstory, fully established for these 2 different pantheons, if you will. And then I think the world will be far more enriched for that. And if there ever was a conflict between the gods and the Elder Dragons, because we can kind of establish that they would be very separate things, it could make that whole angle a lot more interesting. So I'm hoping that that's the angle they're going with. I think most of us trying to pair it up is we can see that they're similar numbers. They're not the same numbers. We have 6 gods and only 5 Elder Dragons. There is the possibility for more to awaken, don't get me wrong. Kralkatorrik only just awoke, and roughly every 50 years for a long time now, another dragon's been waking up. So it could mean in another 50, another Elder Dragon will arise, and we have 6 of 6. But still, I think really we just try and pair them together because ArenaNet, when they created the gods, they decided we need to make these gods distinct. Let's each give them a rough theme. This guy will be of undead, this guy will be of war and fire, this will be kind of the healing god. And then they had to do the same rough thing with the Elder Dragons. They had to make them have their own themes and feel distinct. And in some ways that does mean that they've overlapped with the gods in some ways. But it also seems like, if anything, they've tried hard to make sure they don't overlap in a lot of other ways. It seems like any pairing you do, you can find stuff to question, and that's why I personally, I'm not a believer in the theory, despite the fact that it is one of those things when people who are new to the lore, they kind of come up with, and I don't like to stifle people's theories at all. I think that the Guild Wars community's had a bit of a problem with that for quite a while, where a lot of the lore we had for a long time was very established, and you just had a very small group of people that knew a lot about the lore, and then new people would come along with their theories, and then these people who already knew a lot would sort of slap them down. I think that was a real problem with our community for a while, so I don't like to stifle these theories. I'm not saying never, it's just for me, I personally don't agree with this exact one, and it just seems like it's trying too hard to make it fit in too many areas. There's always big holes no matter what way you try and pair everyone together. Unless we learn a lot more about the gods and the Elder Dragons that creates new bridges that we can say, look, this is how they're together now, I wouldn't hold my breath that this comes true. Sorry to say. Do you know what? I did record that second question, which is another very, very good question. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one. But I think we'll do Guild Wars 2 Daily with just this one question, kind of a bit of a spotlight on this one theory, I suppose, for today. And then tomorrow we can look at the other one that I answered, because that took me up to about 20 minutes. So thanks very much to Jonas93 for the footage in the background. Thanks to you guys for watching. If you've got any questions, any theories of your own, maybe leave them down in the comment section below. We could start doing some spotlights on theories, maybe going forward with Guild Wars 2 Daily. Try and figure out your own pairings for the dragons and the gods if you want. You might find a combination that's far more compelling to you. Like I say, it might not be 100% wrong. It just, you'll see if you try it. It does end up getting quite hard. I'm curious to see whether anyone will find a far nicer one. Going by colours is certainly the easiest way. I'll give you that tip. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself, and I guess I'll see you tomorrow.